including the Skyfin Juvenile and Tauren Bile Scourge, the Orphaned Marsoul, and the Fossorial Bile Lava. Try saying that 5 times.
Hey everybody, sit down around the hearth, grab a frosty mug of ale. Welcome to the Lion's Pride Tavern, where we discuss all things Azeroth. Hey everybody, welcome to the Lion's Pride Tavern podcast number 50. Tonight,
Wow, 50.
I know, right? Tonight we dance with Mistress Sassizine, and we find out how we did on this week's raid. Plus, we need our fans' help in determining the winner of a little internal guild contest that we had. But before all that, let's start off with introductions. I'm your host, Fafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. Next up is JobUui.
Hi, I'm JobUui. I play a Worgen Frost Mage.
And then there's Lorelei.
Hello, it's Lorelei, your Night Elf Fury Warrior.
Epistle.
Hello, Epistle, a Draenei Protection Paladin.
Tapachino.
Hi, it's Tapachino, and I play a Night Elf Restoration Druid.
Fantastic. So, first thing I want to start off with before we get into this week's raid is I want to talk about this contest that we had. So, it's actually the brainchild of JobUui because they're doing the transmog contest. What's that called again?
Well,
the trial of style.
Yeah, the Trial of Style. It was sort of inspired by that, but not entirely.
Well, no, I'm just saying that they're having the Trial of Style this whole last week, and I thought it was very appropriate that he came up with this ugly transmog outfit. Now, we'll let him explain the reasons why he came up with it. So go ahead, JobUui.
Well, last week's raid, not this week's raid, but the previous week was a little rough. I mean, mostly the second night of raiding was like epic scale rough. So, kind of in a protest of that, and I know frustrations have been really high. I decided that in this week's raid, I was going to wear the ugliest transmog that I could possibly put together, which worked out really well too because transmogs were free for everybody. So I invited everybody in the raid group to also put on the ugliest outfits that they could find in their transmog setups and show up to the raid in just hideous outfits just for fun and to lighten the mood a little bit. And, I think that worked out great. I mean, besides the contest itself, I thought the mood was quite a bit more lighthearted and fun this week than we've had in a few weeks. I mean, it's been cool, but there was a lot of like joking and levity and everybody laughing at each other's hideous outfits.
Well, I do know that we did this all kind of right before raid started, but as soon as raid started, people left. And like, I'm not raiding this transmog. There's no way. And we had to summon them back. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, they were there on time.
My ugly transmog.
I wore it throughout the whole raid.
Oh yeah, I wore it the second night too. Because it brought us some good luck, and we had a good time with that.
So anyway, what we did is we posted on our guild Facebook page, which isn't public, and we voted amongst ourselves who had the most ugly transmog. I threw up an event, and everybody voted, and we had a tie between JobUui, our transmog expert, and Formir. So
yeah, his was pretty hideous too. I voted for his too, actually.
Yeah.
So we're asking the fans. We've posted those two pictures. We posted an event on our Facebook page. So that's facebook.com/Lionspridetavern. Please come go there. You'll see it. It's an event. Go down to it, and there's two pictures, one of JobUui and one of Formir, and just like which one that you like the best. And then the one with the most likes by the end of the week. So we're going to stop it right before raid time on Friday. And then we'll add that up. And then in the podcast, we'll announce the winner. Of course, you'll be able to tell who's the winner because you can go count the likes yourself. But at one specific time, we're going to stop the likes. And that's when I'll count it. And that'll be the winner. So if you vote after that, it's not going to count. So, but I'm not going to tell you the time because I want to be a surprise. So fans, please, if you would, go to our Facebook page, like which photo, and break this tiebreaker we have.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fours is pretty ugly.
Yeah,
I
told you.
think the
Do you
pose
think
really
ugly?
does it.
There's not even a word past ugly. I don't even know where he got those pieces from.
Yeah.
The shorts
That's
are
crazy.
great. The shorts are great.
Yeah,
And
the
then
shorts put it over the edge. He should have socks, but they don't have socks.
he's doing the whole night elf disco on the toes thing, you know. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and me and with my 8 sets of wings.
Yeah, right?
Hey, you know, it'd be fun if some of our fans posted some of their ugliest pictures as part of that.
Oh, that would be fun to see. If
Yeah,
you
it
could-
would.
Yeah, because, you know,
Yeah.
when Zeetz put his up, I looked at it and went, well, that's not too bad of a transmog, but he's sure ugly.
Ooh.
Well, it's a gnome.
Yeah, I
Big old nose.
still want to see him with that outfit with like the wrestling mask thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the Mexican wrestling guy, whatever. What movie was that? That was pretty good. So anyway, fans, help us out. Go vote. Let's see who wins this contest. Jobui, why don't you tell us how we did on this raid? Because I'm excited.
Yeah, we did great this week. Our Friday night went really clean. We made it all the way through to Fallen Avatar and got a couple of pulls on Fallen Avatar, so that was a great night of raiding. Even the maiden went silky smooth. We didn't have any deaths. It was a flawless victory on that particular fight.
Yeah, I didn't see anyone out of position that whole fight. Maybe there's one or two I missed, but it looked really good.
No, everybody was. I mean, like some people got blown to the wrong sides, but they compensated. They took care of it. They moved where they should, and there was no mishaps with the bombs. There was no mishaps with grabbing any of the power-ups as we were transitioning to the other side. There was just no mishaps. Everybody was on point and did their jobs perfectly. It was great. It was mechanically on point for everybody.
That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I was so pleased to see that because that's one where the mechanics have been struggling a lot, and so to see that was awesome. And then we came back on Saturday night and we finished the Fallen Avatar. It took a little effort to get Fallen Avatar down. There was a few little tweaks and some folks getting used to the mechanics on that still. I mean, we really haven't done that fight too many times before, so that's understandable. We had some people who hadn't done that fight at all before, so they were just learning it for the first time, I think. And so, it didn't take that long. And when we got it, it was a pretty good kill. I mean, it wasn't like a close thing. It was a good solid kill on that fight. Went on to kill Jaden, and that's really our full-on progression fight. And we didn't down it, but I thought we did reasonably well as far as like learning the parts and people getting used to the mechanics on that fight. We got them down to 50%. And people were doing a pretty darn good job. We ended up just shy, because I think it's 40% when you transition to the second intermission. So we were only 10% off from get to that point. And I think as folks get more used to those mechanics, I think we'll get him down, or at least make some more progress on him real soon.
Yeah, I must say I was pretty excited. I mean, basically, I think what happened is we got to the point where everybody knew the mechanics. They'd listened to your spiel up to that point. And that's as far as we made it. So now we need you to spiel from the 50% point on just a little bit more to get us there.
Yeah, I think
because there's a lot to it.
Yeah, well, the key there is that we need to discuss overlapping mechanics and how to handle the different combinations of overlapping mechanics, because that's really what we're encountering at that point, which, we're going to have to get that down, because you get the overlapping mechanics where it's 2 overlapping mechanics in the second phase. Then we go through the second intermission, and after the second intermission, the third phase is basically 3 overlapping mechanics all the time until the boss is down. So yeah, we just got to practice that. And so yeah, I think some strategies on how to handle those double mechanics, and we'll get past that and get into the second intermission and on to the third phase, hopefully.
Well, at least with getting through the other bosses quicker, we'll have more time to work on him too.
Yeah.
Well, I have a suggestion. Why don't on Friday we kill Garoth, because you have to do that first, and then go through the shortcut to do Maiden, Fallen Avatar, and then kill Jaden, and that way we've got more time to do that.
Because I want gear.
But you can get gear. You're gonna get gear.
Well, we'd kind of talked about this, and it's one of those. We've got some guys that on Friday, that's when they're bringing in. Not all of them play on Saturday, but they have their tunes that aren't quite as geared. So if we can get through more of the normal and just fly through them, and so they can try to get gear, because I have to admit that. Tapachino's in really sad shape for gear.
I am.
Oh, wow.
I have
Well-
all those fights, all those weeks. I have 1 piece of tier gear.
Yeah,
Ouch.
her gear is her gear score isn't bad necessarily, but she's just had horrible luck on getting normal gear.
Horrible. Yeah, RNG is just not my friend.
You know
I
what?
guess-
I'd like to see us blast through. I'd like to see us get to a point where, like on our Friday night, where we get all the way to kill Jaden, where we're getting Fallen Avatar down, and I don't think we're far off from that point, where we can get through the first 8 bosses or 9 bosses, and get us right up to kill Jaden, so that on our Saturday we come in and we're just working on kill Jaden the whole night through.
I'm actually not sure that Kill Jaden's going to take us that long, because without going too deep into the fight, my impression is every mechanic we've seen before. It's like a summation of a whole bunch of different mechanics, and yeah, they come at a kind of a random sort of way, but well, maybe it's just from a tank's side of things. It's fairly simple. It doesn't seem like it's a really tough fight for me. He hits like a truck, but
They're not random. They will always come in the same combinations at this, in the same sequence. It's not a random reaction fight. It's a learn the combos that are coming next. All right, so this one we're going to have this mechanic and that mechanic, and then the next one we'll have this pair of mechanics. And
oh yeah, it may feel random to us at this point. I'm meaning more the fact that they're all mechanics we've seen in other fights, which have all been kind of scrambled up into a new melange for us, and that's what we have to get used to. That it'll seem random until we understand the patterns.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's going to be really big about us getting through Kill Jaden is just when everybody is just perpetually on point with the Armageddons, because that's a mechanic that goes on throughout all the fight, and it's something that has to be done perfectly from start to finish. There can't be a mess up in that one, really.
Yeah, it's one of those raid-wide things again. It's not just a tank or just a healer that has to get that right. Everybody has to get it right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And there are times later too where that overlaps with some other difficult mechanics where we're going to have it set up so that only the correct number of people are going after that, while the rest of them are focusing on this other mechanic. So it's going to get tough.
well, the last 3 bosses I think were designed that way, where it includes everybody in the raid. So we maxed out on Saturday. Saturday? Did we max out? No, we had 1 or 2 spots left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, we had 1 spot that was open. That we had 29 players because we had 1 person who was going to come late, but I don't think she actually ended up making it.
No, we did have 30 because 1 had to leave early. We had 1 coming late,
Okay.
and that in between bosses, Mommy got him in, but we had 1 that had to leave in the middle, And I didn't even know she was going. She apparently told Mommy, but it wasn't communicated to me. So when she left, I was like, oh man, did we upset her? And then I yelled up to her, and she's like, oh no, she said she had to go early. So yeah, we would have been completely full and been able to, I don't know, maybe get farther. I don't know, because when you have less people, you have to have the right combination in order to get past certain bosses. But with more people, everybody has to concentrate on everything because you've got all this stuff going on and it's going to go to a random person. And these last 3 bosses, I can't imagine what it's like in LFR. I don't even want to know. It's probably just a nightmare. Anybody done it yet?
I've avoided the last
I
few.
just refuse to do the last boss in LFR. I'm not going to do that.
I haven't tried it yet either.
Paulette has done it, and he said it's horrendous. It's wicked hard because nobody's cooperating.
Well,
Or
yeah,
knows the fight. Pretty new, too.
I can't imagine that the mechanics are too far different. It's probably one that's going to get nerfed. You watch. Everybody's going to complain, and the LFR people, and then all of a sudden, Kill Jaden will get nerfed.
Well, Kill Jaden did get nerfed, but in normal, he got nerfed a little bit, and I think Mythic, if I recall.
Now, he got nerfed how? From PTR or?
No, you got
No.
nerfed from live.
Yeah.
They reduced down some of the damage that he does on certain mechanics and stuff. They did a few. It wasn't massive changes, but he did get nerfed a bit.
Wow, some people, I tell you, they just not up to the challenge anymore.
Well, I don't know if it's that they just may have been looking at the data and saw that it was just not balanced exactly right, kind of thing, for where they wanted it at least, for normal.
Yeah, the original damage was horrible. You couldn't get through the first 2 phases, and you couldn't keep your tanks up. And then we did it one night, and we just were wiping all night. We tried it the next night, and all of a sudden we could get him down, and it was like, well, what happened? Something had to happen, and that was they had done that change.
Huh. Because I know they've gotten
it was horrible.
I know they've gotten him down in Mythic. Because that's always a big race when new content comes out. Who gets the first kill?
Yeah, but it's the tuning balance thing that they have, and it's a bit difficult sometimes to get that exactly right. Because they want it to be difficult, but they don't want it to be like next to impossible to the point of frustration. In levels like normal, it should, scale up. Where normal is difficult, but not seemingly impossible. Heroic is tougher, but again, not impossible. Then Mythic is like just relentlessly unforgiving.
I'm sure they must be looking at stats for what percentage of LFR groups are able to get to completion. And I know that, first out, it often doesn't happen and people are learning the fights, but I could see relying on everybody to be on the ball. If LFR is like that, they're not going to have a very high success rate.
Well, I did LFRs all the way up through the last boss, because they had it all open on my alt tune. And it was just, everything was tank and spank. Nobody was doing, not even Maiden and even Fallen Avatar. Nobody was doing mechanics. It's just tank and spank is all it was. So LFR I don't think is a really good accurate, but I bet you they do watch the normals, because everything's recorded for them. They can pull up anything.
And the normals have been out for a longer time as well, so they'd have more data.
So I suppose they look at, how many normals have gone off, and, well, geez, nobody's really succeeded. Everybody's gotten to 50%. Except the super teams, the super raid teams. They're, because it always seems to be the same 3 top raiding guilds that are competing for that heroic kill, but, hey, that's not us.
Nope. But I think it's got a good balance now because, no, we haven't downed them, but we've been progressing through them too, learning each time we fight. And I don't think anybody's gotten to the point where it's like, oh, for crying out loud, why can't we get this thing down? And I don't think that will happen either.
No, I don't.
So
either.
the balance seems pretty good right now, I think.
But that's after nerfing it. So, I did not know they nerfed it. I thought we were just doing better.
Yeah, they did, but I wouldn't say that, like, from what I recall, that the nerfs were not so extensive as to make it like it's not a pushover fight. It's just now it's a little less super difficult, is all.
It's most possible for raids like us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So now, Lorelei, has your guild got it down? A couple of times, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're able to do it once a week. That's our weekly thing.
Yeah, clear it all.
We're working. We haven't gotten that far on heroics yet, so.
How far are you along on heroics?
I think we've gotten the first 4 bosses down.
Okay.
I'll have to see if there's 5.
Yeah, cool. Well, that I'm just looking at it from our aspect, going, well, we're not too far behind. You know, how big's your group?
During the summer, sometimes if we can get 10, we're good. So we're doing it with like less damage.
Small group.
Yeah, we have a smaller group.
Okay.
So we get maybe 10 to 12.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we're getting to the point, guys. You know, we've had, in just the last couple of weeks, we've had 3 more fans join our guild. Or 4 more fans join our guild. And we're approaching that where we're causing Mommy Fortuna to have a panic attack every time we get to Friday and Saturday. Because she's like, well, we got too many people and not enough slots.
Shoehorning everyone in.
Yes, but it always seems to work. And, you know, for our raiders that are listening, they already know this, but for our fans, we totally use the seniority system. So if you've raided with us for the last few years, you will always have a spot. You know, it's the new people, you know, and they understand. I've talked to them extensively before, you know, they even come into the guild by letting them know, look, you know, if we got a spot, we'll let you in, but if we don't, you're going to have to sit out. And, you know, that's the way it goes. Because it's always good to have backup players, but you know, on the other hand, I understand if they're never picked, you know. I think Charm's got a song about that. That she's on the raiding B team and the B team never happens.
Rating's gonna start in 10, but you're not in. And they say you're in the guild's B team, left to do dailies.
Yeah, I've been there.
So, but I do
Yeah,
know one of our
Not a fun place to be.
No, not at all. One of our new guildies, I mean, he just joined us last week. He's at like 915 or 917, he told me. It's like, and he was up there in DPS. I was like, wow. And he started, I mean, he transferred a tune over, but that's pretty awesome that he wanted to join us and he's already that high and doing that well.
Well, he talked to me a little bit, actually. During the raid, he sent me a message, you know, talking about, you know, thanking me for having him along, you know, not that I'm in heading up the raid or anything like that, but he just sent a thank you to me individually, you know, for having him along, and told me a little bit of his history. And apparently he used to raid pretty seriously back in the day, you know, like with some of those, you know, like
Heavy hitters.
yeah, like, you know, the serious raiders, you know, the realm firsts and stuff like that, people that are pushing the envelope kind of thing. He used to raid like that a long time ago, and he kind of fell out of it. And he said he was looking for a comfortable place to raid, and that he had been, you know, a fan of us since like episode 14 or something. And then so he was really excited to actually come along and come raid with us. And yeah, I mean, and he was like, yeah, you know, like I told him, I said, well, you know, I think you're doing a really good job, because I haven't noticed too much you know, kind of thing. Because a lot of times I'm noticing more when there are screw ups than when people are doing their job appropriately, you know, because
Yep.
you know, it's
Yeah.
There are ways you don't want to stand out in a raid.
right. And I was like, and I haven't really noticed you, so yeah, you're doing a good job.
great.
You know, I was like, that's a good thing. You know, don't take that as a negative, because that's great. If I'm not going, that new guy keeps messing up the mechanics, well then, you know, that's a good thing.
Yeah, exciting. We got through Kill Jaden, Fallen Avatar, Maiden of Vigilance. Now, we had an hour, almost. I think we had like 55 minutes. Or no, I'm sorry. No, we had like 45.
We had 45. Yeah.
we had like 45 minutes to work on Kill Jaden, so we got several attempts in. So
Yeah. It was, I mean, yeah, we pulled, I think, like 4 or 5 times, if I recall, on Kill Jaden.
About that.
It was 4. We managed to do 4. I was just looking at my data there.
seemed
And
like more.
they were, yeah, it's such a complex fight, and there's so much going on. But the more we do it, the better we'll get at it. And like I said, I don't think it'll take us too long to progress to the next parts in that fight, because really, like, folks are starting to get the flow of the mechanics on it. What's interesting
Yeah.
is we do have. I know you've mentioned this a number of times, Fafford. The designated mechanic handlers. And in this case, it's people with the immunities, like hunters with turtle and mages with ice block and shields and stuff, things of that nature,
Right.
to do the large circles. So there's a role for that, but at the same time, there's a role for everybody else, which is get in all the smaller ones, because if the designated people don't do their job and then the other folks don't do their job, well, either way, it's still a wipe.
Yeah. Anyway, so then I have to tell this story because, it's the Goblin Goldcast. So Mac raids with us, and his wife was raiding with us, and Mrs. Mac. And as we're approaching Kill Jaden, I don't know what was going on, but they both went off the little green bridge at the same time.
It
We're
was
like,
so
no.
romantic. It was so romantic.
exactly.
They
It was
jumped to their deaths together.
It was like Romeo and Juliet.
It's like Titanic without a chunk of debris.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of a sudden, we're like, whoa, wait, how did they die? And why did the husband-wife die?
Yeah, we're just like running up there, and then all of a sudden we hear the lamentations of, "Oh, we fell to our death." Well, she said she fell to her death, and then I looked, and he had fallen to his death too. I was like, "What the heck?" I was like, "Was she on auto follow, or
I think,
was
yeah.
he on auto follow?"
I think he was.
Well, I've decided that I have so many Knoll wands and ninja wands and a whole bunch of stuff for Halloween, and they've just been sitting in my bags. So I've decided anyone who falls off the platform, the next pull gets to become something special.
Oh, that's neat.
I did. Somebody turned me into, I don't know, it was like a little
Yeah,
flower thing.
yeah.
Was that you?
That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
You're
though.
welcome.
It was really cool because
Oh! Now everyone's going to want to do it, so they
Every-
get it. Uh-oh.
every time I cast something or I shot something, one of my special spells, it would go. I was getting a kick out of the sound effects more than anything else. It was pretty cool. What was that? Do you remember?
The ones I put on, the wand has been used up, so
Oh,
I'll remember in a second, but I don't know offhand.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, guys. We got to start our series back up of Dancing with the Bosses. So this week's Dancing with the Boss, Mistress Sassizine. And for our fans, maybe joining us for the first time, what this is we have one panel member from each one of the specific specs for raiding. We have a tank, we have a healer, we have a melee DPS and a ranged DPS. And they will discuss in as much detail as they can or as they want to the Mistress Sassizine fight. So we're going to start off with ranged DPS, and that's JoBui.
Okay, so on that fight, typically what I have to do is I need to be really focused on the boss, especially in the first phase, but I have to make sure that I'm utilizing some kind of cleave or AoE damage, because there's going to be ads that come out that need to be killed, because these ads will drop a pool of some like kelpy looking stuff on the ground, which is on the water that we're standing on, and that kelp will absorb tornadoes that come, because every now and again a wave of tornadoes will sweep across the room. And although it can be blinked through, not everybody has that kind of ability. So we need that kelp from the ads to drop on the ground in time so that when the tornadoes intersect with them, it goes away. So when the tornadoes come, I notice where the tornadoes are at, and I get to the other side of the kelp, and so that the tornadoes will hit the kelp and dissipate, and they'll be gone. The other thing I have to keep an eye out for is every now and again during the fight, there's going to be a big splash of like white, looks like choppy water or frothy water that goes across, I'd say like 80% of the room. It's a big line that goes across most of the room, but it'll leave 2 open spaces, one on either side. I usually, as a ranged, I try to make sure that I go on the same side as the tanks are taking the boss, just so that I'm absolutely certain I'm going to be in range. But if I do end up on the wrong side, if I position myself right on the edge of that white splash on the ground, then I can usually still hit them from the far side of the room. So that at least there's that. The big splash is like there's a big shark that comes swimming through the room and will damage everybody that is inside of the white path in the middle. And then there's also another mechanic, and this mechanic sometimes comes up during that big splash part, which is a whale will show up, and the whale wants to eat ink from the players. So I'll look around. When the whale comes up, it starts sucking you towards it, and so I'll look around and try and find the pools of purple ink on the ground, and then I get into the purple pool, and then I go inside. There are 2 circles by the whale. One right close up next to the whale along the wall, and then another purple circle that is a little bit further out. And if you go inside that further out circle with ink on, then the whale will suck the ink off of you, and once it has sucked 3 batches of ink off of players, then the whale goes away. So I try and handle that mechanic whenever possible, especially because I have a fast movement like Blink, and I'm also a Worgen, so I can do my Dark Flight run, which gives me a little speed boost. But otherwise, it's just constant hit the boss and cleave and try and kill those ads and avoid stuff. There's also some like little, they are jellyfish that come up out of the floor that I have to move out of because those jellyfish will stun me, I think. I don't know. I've never actually stood in them long enough to get hit by them.
Yeah, they stun you.
Yeah, but the... Yeah, and that's basically it.
From experience.
I was just
Oh,
saying.
of course not.
I just seem to remember, like, I haven't actually been stunned, but I thought I remembered seeing other players get stunned by them.
I've never been stunned, but friends of mine who've been there.
Right. And I think that's basically it for the fight. It gets more intense as the fight progresses, where the pace of things speeds up, and there's different combinations of the mechanics. But those are the basic mechanics that I have to handle. But the key really for me as a ranged DPS is to make sure that I'm always using some kind of AoE cleave so that I am killing those ads while I am killing the boss.
Yes, because we've had a couple of them where the ads, when they drop the moss, all of a sudden the moss disappears right before the tornado shows up.
Yeah. We've also had to drop it right as the tornadoes are arriving and create a little gap for people. Which we have healed through those tornadoes, but we'd rather not.
Yeah.
We'd rather do it properly.
And I'm not sure if the tornadoes get tougher as they go along, like do more damage. I don't really know, because it's always like the first set of tornadoes we don't quite get right, and then.
Sure.
But I've been able to get through it, and been able to self heal, and because my healers don't heal me because I make rude comments to them. I don't get it.
You deserve it, or not, or don't deserve it. However you want to put it.
Yeah. So, Lorelei, how about from a melee perspective?
Well, we do all the same things that the range do, but I think with melee, with the ads, little eel ads, we have to be more careful and watch how fast we're taking those down. So I think it's really put onto the melee that we have to watch the timers more about when the tornadoes are coming out, leave a couple of eels up or at partial health, and then take them down as soon as you can. So it's a little bit of a give and take, stay on the boss a little bit more, cleave, and then go after the eels themselves. With the stun, again, you have to pay more attention because you're standing right there on the boss. So as soon as I hear the warning, and I always set my DBM up for something I need to get away from to run away, little girl, so that I know I better start moving because I don't want to get hit by that multi-stun. That's not good. And then we just do the same thing. I don't usually do too much with the ink if there's a lot of ranged because, as Jobui said, they've got more abilities to get in and out fast. But if there's one next to me, I'll go grab it because I can heroic leap out of it. I usually let them take care of it, though, if we've got enough. And then just stay out of all the things you need to stay out of and work on the boss and make sure you're not standing in the bad things. And usually that's all I have to do. It's a pretty easy fight.
Yeah, it's just a lot of little mechanics, which...
It's more paying attention to DBM, I think, than most of the other fights.
There is one other thing I'd add to that, just as a little tip to players out there, and this goes for all players really, is when that big swath comes across the room, make sure you're not standing on the wall. Because if you're standing up against the wall, we've had it happen where the whale has shown up right where there's people standing, and they just get sucked into the whale immediately and die. So make sure you're standing like further away from the wall, like close to the edge of where that white stuff is, so you don't get immediately sucked in if the whale should appear right behind you.
I don't believe that's ever happened to anybody, Tapachino.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
I specifically remember
you
that happening to you. Yeah, stay away from the edge of stay away from the wall.
Yeah, it's like, what the heck?
She's standing there.
Was that?
1 minute she's there, and the next minute, poof, she's Jonah.
Yeah, Jonah.
Yeah, that
this is
does hit
Jonah.
hard.
Yeah, you don't recover from that one. He doesn't spit you out so you can try again. That's for sure.
So now, just because you've been there, in the belly of the whale, can you be resurrected, or is it you're just like falling off an edge? You're gone. Do you know?
No, you're right there. You could be. I haven't tried it, but when you do get sucked in, you actually stay like right at the surface of the water. Like I could watch the fight.
Okay.
So I would imagine you could be res, but as you said, that happens very rarely where we get anybody sucked in now.
Yeah. So, and I do know that if there's a pool of ink in his zone, he won't suck it in. It's got to be sucked off a player. Because I was like, oh look, there's one right in his zone. He'll just suck that up, and that'll be one. And it just stayed there and stayed there.
Oh yeah.
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 Oh.
It's got to be flavored with players.
And of course, so I run to it and jump in it at the same time. It quits.
Yeah, it's just best to leave those alone.
So then I had ink on me. I had got a little bit of ink on me.
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, the ink's not going to kill you necessarily if you get it on you and the whale doesn't remove it from you, but it's best to leave the ink alone unless the whale is up.
Yeah. All right, so we're on to Epistle from a tanking perspective.
I love fights like this because they're very much, you got to be light on your feet, ready to move, and it's one of those things where you don't want to move too much because really where the boss is and your reactions as a tank are going to set the stage for everyone else to be able to do their best damage on the fight. So I find the electrical bit is easy to handle because it's usually just a couple steps one way or the other. Although I'm always conscious of trying to make sure that I'm pulling her in a way that melee still can actually can hit her. So it's not like I take 2 steps out and leave all the melee in the damage, but I also try to pull it in a direction that they can take a couple steps and be in the clear as well. So you kind of have to do a quick calculation as to what's going to work best for everybody. The same kind of thing for the shark when it's coming. You got to very quickly figure out which side you're going to go on or anticipate where it's going to come so you can kind of move accordingly, because you don't want to do something where you're running halfway across the shark mark. You can use a speed boost or something to get across, but why create all the drama? So always trying to figure out how to get just to the edge as quick as I can. And sometimes I've taken a longer run because I realize more people, more melee are closer to the other edge. But again, you got to be paying attention as the tank on this one because you've got to move first so that everyone else can react to what it is that you're doing and make sure that they're going to be on the right side. The whale, basically, that's a mechanic I can more or less ignore. I tend to stay in that center strip where the where the shark will come up and out. So I'm pretty much in the middle for most of the fight, except for these kind of side steps or stepping out and then back again. Otherwise, this is your typical tank swap to drop a debuff, and that's really about it. It's a fun, mobile, active fight from my perspective.
So I'm curious, when the whale comes out and it starts sucking players towards it, does it affect you also?
Yeah, but I basically just kind of ignore it and compensate for the So just try not to move, because if I'm moving, then melee have to move, and I want them to be able to do all the DPS they can possibly do. I hear from melee if I don't do that. Just so you know.
Do you also coordinate with the other tank during the fight, as far as like, because sometimes I've seen the boss get taken to one side of the white and the ads get taken to the other side of the fight, or the other side of the room. They get separated occasionally, not very often, but every now and again. So
it'll happen, but they're within taunt range. So there's been one or two times where there's more people on side, and so we'll just taunt it to that side. That's kind of one of those things we'll do on the fly if needed. But you got to be careful on that, because if there's a debuff, it could be trouble. So we generally haven't really run into too much of a problem with that. And sometimes if somebody's on the wrong side, that's just the way it's going to work out because of reaction time. So
you're saying you chalk that up to tanking ESP?
Well, there is a little tanking ESP between Darg and I. Will say the other day yesterday's raid. At one point, I was moving the boss and trying to figure out why he hadn't taunted off me, but we both moved simultaneously in exactly the same spot. I find that happens quite often when you get in the groove of tanking with somebody. You kind of know how they're going to react, and they know how you're going to react, and so we end up working very often in tandem. It's sometimes uncanny and a bit strange how it works out, but it certainly works out well for the raid.
We like it.
Yes,
it's like we're reading minds. So that's why when it's a new fight, sometimes we're a little grumpy with each other, because it's like, wait, you normally would move right. Why didn't you? And have to figure out the reasoning for it.
So now, when the shark comes up and you got to go to the side, what makes you determine which side to go to? Just the closest?
Combination of factors. So if I see most people are on close to one side, I'll go that way. If there's messes on the floor that's going to mess people up, I will move to avoid those. But it is a split second, get a quick gist of what's going on and make the call.
Okay, yeah, because I'm going to say the Hunter ESP doesn't work with tanks, because I've gone to the opposite side several times.
Well, it should be. You can go to one side, and you should still be in range to hit it. Yeah, because we don't drag it far. But it's more of an issue for melee. So I'd be interested in Lorelei's perspective on that one.
Well, I try to watch where I think you're going to take it, and that's usually, for me, I'm going to go to the side that's where I can get off the quickest. So sometimes I do get caught on the side where the boss isn't at, and it's just like, oh, well, that's where I got to be, because I don't even want to get hit by that shark when it goes through.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry when that happens, but that's just to try to make sure that most melee are on one side, and I'm trying to work with the majority on that one.
Yeah. So I mean, I try to anticipate, but if I guess wrong, it's okay. I've got to be doing the mechanics over doing the DPS.
Absolutely. And what's funny is I have to do the same thing as arranged, where I have to watch the tanks, and when the white comes up, I have to make a snap judgment call. Are the tanks taking it this way, or are they taking it that way? And then I just go with whatever my gut says. And then sometimes I end up on what I consider the lonely side, where there's like 2 or 3 or 4 of us that are standing there, and everybody else is on the other side of the room.
We'll call that the Fafford side.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't care what it is, I seem to be all by myself a lot of times over there going.
Cue the song now.
Oh, totally music.
All right, so from a healing perspective, Tapachino.
Well, I have to say that I actually did not know there were little eels that you had to fight until you guys started talking about it. Being healers, we, for the most part, I'm out at the DPS ranged area, so kind of like what JoBui does, getting near the edge of the big splash that comes through, and I try to stay on the tank side, so we're always concentrating a lot on the tanks anyways, so it's kind of good that we have that concentration, so we can just go to that tank side and heal from there. The inks, I pretty much avoid the inks even if they're close by. There's plenty of people that can pick them up, and the healers basically want to just keep healing, so I generally avoid grabbing the ink and then taking the time to go over to the whale. He already tasted me once, and I think doesn't want to taste me again because I do have a lot of feathers and stuff. But yeah, for the most part, it's like like I said, with the DPS range stay behind the muck. Well, I guess we all do that. Stay behind the muck. When the tornadoes come, we do not like to have to heal through it. If we don't have to, of course, any mechanic, we would rather not have to heal through if it can be helped. And just stay with the tanks when the splash comes. And I guess that's about it. On a healing perspective, and heal.
Okay.
Well, whales don't like to get you stuck in there. What is that at the front of the Galeen or something?
Oh yeah,
Who-
or Baleen or
Okay,
something
yeah.
like that.
Who wants a druid stuck in that? Ugh.
Yeah, I know, right?
I have to admit, I didn't know they were eels either. Just because I'm usually on the other side of the room, and they're the 3 ads that show up, and they're usually in a mess of melee and boss, and I don't really get a really clear view at them from as far back as I am.
They're the same 2 mobs that we get just before we get into Together. It's typical of Blizzard, right? You hit the mobs on the way in, and they give you a kind of a hint what the next boss is going to be like. And so those 2 giant kind of electrical things that you have to move out of, that's what they are.
Sure.
I have to admit the same thing. I didn't know they were eels.
Yeah, they're. I guess they're officially called Abyss Stalkers.
Okay.
But yeah, they're eels. And I guess the stuff that we were calling on the ground is called concealing murk.
Are we starting to not care about the nomenclature anymore?
Nah, Swirly's work.
Stuff on floor.
Yeah, we tend to use just whatever name we decide to call it, and then that's just usually what sticks. Like the green stuff.
Well, and there's
Yep.
a reason for that, though. There's a reason, really. I mean, when you stop and think about it, if you were to be that technical and put every name to every piece, Tapachino, would you pay attention?
I probably wouldn't, because then I'd have to look it up and see, okay, what is that thing he's talking about?
Exactly, right?
It's much easier to have a descriptive
Yeah.
name for it instead of what the actual term is.
Yeah.
Bad floor stuff.
And everybody knows
Bad floor stuff, exactly.
and everybody knows what ads means.
Yeah.
So like if I say there's 3 ads, we kill them fast. And doesn't need any more explanation
Yeah,
than that.
because we know it's not the boss. It's whatever else comes up. And apparently we have eels, too.
Yep.
Guess we all got an education on that one.
Yeah, they're eely ads. Thanks, Lorelei, for letting us know that they're
They
eels.
are. They're little eels.
Well, I mean,
that.
they're all up in your face, So
Yeah,
you
I get to see them up close.
Oh yeah, so do tanks. Yeah.
Eliads. I like that. We're going to start calling that from now on.
Iliads.
Eliads.
Yeah, isn't there an old book called that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some famous guy somewhere way
Yeah,
back.
Odyssey and the Iliads. Yes,
100,
indeed.
100 years ago or so. I mean, my grandpa's age.
Ish. Yeah.
So,
By a factor of 10, but oh well.
yeah.
Something
One
about
quick
heroes.
One quick question for Tap. Do you, on Mistress Sassizine, do your healers have, I know you do that on a lot of bosses, you rotate your big cooldown healing spell. Do you do that with Mistress Sassizine, or is this one of the fights that you don't have to do it with?
Yeah, we don't have to do it with that one. She's pretty easy.
Okay. So,
It's the ones that we get a lot of damage and, that it's not a given that we're going to get it down type of thing.
okay. Yeah, I was just curious because that would be good to know as a healing person going into the fight. You know, that's one of the things that I really like that you coordinate for the raid is you set up a rotation.
Now that being said, it is always a good idea to call out that if you're using your big CD though. I mean, I just like to have, that's just a good discipline, is calling out when you use it.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So, all right, guys, we got about 10 minutes. We got to get through our minutes yet, but Tapachino is going to read a fan comment from our 1-year anniversary issue. So this was last episode 49, and I have to apologize because if you guys caught it, my blooper was I called it episode 48, and even the members here didn't catch me saying 48 instead of 49.
No.
No, I thought you said 49.
I was on holidays.
Yeah, Donna Bell's the one, and she corrected it in the video. Oh, and speaking of the video, so you know the song that we played at the beginning of that one, I did a different intro song. It was the Tomb of Sargeras song by Charm. I got nailed for a copyright violation because that's off of Linkin Park's song Castle of Glass. It's just the rhythm, you know. So I contested it, but it's going to take, weeks before they agree to it. But it's up and it works. So you can still hear it, but if they monetize it, I may have to take it down and put in my I Kissed an Orc song. So if you want to hear the original, it's kind of like, getting a book that's got a flub up in it and they recall them all, listen to it now. So go to our YouTube page and do a search for Lionspridetavern podcast on YouTube and go watch episode 49.
The error-ridden one.
So 1-year anniversary first edition.
That's, yeah, exactly. Version 1. So Tapachino, I can't read this because I get choked up. So you're going to read it for us. Fan comment from our 1-year anniversary.
Hello, players of the awesome game World of Warcraft. First and foremost, congratulations on a year of podcasting. Secondly, thank you. In my opinion, the Lion's Pride Tavern is the most genuine and humble WoW podcast. I appreciate what you all do, and I hope to hear more every week. The main reason I am writing to you is to comment on the ending segment you did on episode 49. Having all of your raid members list their name, race, class, and spec was heartwarming. Your raid team's camaraderie really shows. I'm not often sentimental, but that part brought a tear to my eye. Thank you again, and here's to another year of Lion's Pride Tavern. Drinks Frosty Mug of Ale.
Yay!
Yay!
Oh.
Sincerely, and forgive me if I say your name wrong, Woland the Wakener, Human Affliction Warlock.
Yes. Awesome.
Thank you very much, Woland.
Thank you,
Nice.
Woland.
Thank you, Woland. That was awesome.
We all drank Frosty Mug of Ale for you.
Clinked
Yeah.
our glasses and didn't break them.
So, yeah. So, for those of you who didn't stay for the very end of podcast 49, I threw in the bloopers of all of our raid members trying to say their name. It's pretty funny. But Shepard, who is one of our newest raid members, she wanted to do a little toast tinking, and she took 2 wine glasses and she tinked them together. Well, she did it perfect the first time, but she said our name wrong, so I made her do it again. And so the second time she did it, she broke her wine glass
Oops.
doing her take. So, Shepard, I apologize that you had to break your wine glass. I know it was a really expensive one, but hey, we appreciate it. So let's cue the music. It's time for Lorelei's Pet Battle Minute.
Hi, more news from Argus. In the recent PTR build, new pets were added, including the Skyfin Juvenile and Tauren Bile Scourge, the Orphaned Marsual, and the Fossorial Bile Lava. Try saying that 5 times. There will be 23 new wild pets, 5 new pets from drops, a new Winter Veil pet, 1 from new rep, and 2 from currently unknown sources. So put that safari hat on and get your pet treats and be ready to battle. Kaoot will be a new achievement pet. He looks like a doll from Shat. He'll be your reward from raiding with Leashes 3, drinking from the Sunwell. You'll need to head back to the Black Temple, the Sunwell, and Mount Hyjal, so pick up some cool transmog while you're there. Now, the downside is that Kaoot isn't a battle pet, but you'll be able to trade him, so cage him up and hit the auction house too. If you've been out hunting those Falcosaur pets and finally have your mount, you can continue your journey with another quest line to get rep for the Talon's Vengeance. Take the flight path to Sylvan Falls and High Mountain, head out to the small island in the middle of the lake, hop on one of your Falcosaur mounts, take out one of your hatchlings, and Aviana will give you a new quest. This quest line involves PvP, and you'll be collecting marks of prey. These marks can only be earned through PvP, boo, which you can get through the World PvP dailies or by killing Horde and Alliance players. Yes, you can kill people on your own side in the Falcosaur World quests. So what you can do is, if you're doing all the, like the dire Falcosaur hatchling out there in Stormheim, you'll be able to kill Alliance players who are out there trying to kill those little raptors. So I don't know.
Don't do it.
You know what? I started it, and when I realized it was completely PvP, I just said, no, I don't. It's the same mount as the White Hawkstrider from Magister's Terrace, and I have that, so I'm like, I don't need two of the same thing. But once you get enough marks to earn Exalted with the Talon, you'll be able to purchase that mount for 10,000 gold. So I said, no, why did you do that, Blizzard? But that's my pet battle minute for today.
So it's kind of like PvPE.
Yeah, because it's like, just go out and kill everybody. Doesn't matter.
That sounds like EverQuest. Oh.
Oh, whoops.
All right, and then there is...
Getting Deeps with JoBui.
This week's Getting Deeps is all about having fun. People who raid do so for various reasons. It might be to acquire gear that will make your character more powerful, or that you really love solving the puzzle of how to defeat each boss. Maybe you enjoy being part of the unfolding story of the world of Warcraft, or it's the friendships and teamwork that you enjoy most. Whatever the reason, the ultimate goal is usually to have fun one way or another. From what I've observed over the years of playing WoW, if a player is having fun, they will do well in their role. It really doesn't matter if that role is to protect your team as a tank, keep everyone alive as a healer, or dish out the damage as a DPS. If you're having fun, you're far more likely to perform better. So take a deep breath. Remember to keep your cool. Focus on playing your role, and do it with confidence. You and your merry band of fellow raiders are the heroes of this story. You're going to save Azeroth once again, and you should have fun while doing it. And that's my Getting Deeps for this week.
Nice to go PvPE, and then you just get mad at everybody.
Yeah. Well, when I get attacked randomly, I fight back. Sometimes I win.
I usually don't. I send my pets out, and then I run away. Run away, little girl, run away.
So, sometimes that can be a little glorious, though. Like I've been attacked by like a group of 3 players and killed them all, and then felt like a really powerful dude. I was like, ha ha!
Yeah. And then there's Epistle.
What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress?
This week's Come At Me Tanking Minute comes fresh out of my thinking and experiences after having been on a holiday. After you've taken a break, sometimes you kind of rethink and reconsider how you're coming at things. So the last little while, I've been struggling with Ask Mr. Robot and Pawn, or perhaps I should be more specific and say, it seems that Ask Mr. Robot and Pawn are struggling with each other. There seems to be some love-hate relationship between the two of them, and subsequently, the same for me. So I've been doing a little more homework, a little more research to figure out why I'm getting the answers that I'm getting. I read stuff on the Ask Mr. Robot site, and they seem to be really thinking through why they're doing what they're doing. but then they don't really seem to be looking at it from a tanking perspective too much. Survivabilities, cooldowns, they're harder to measure than things like DPS and healing meters. How do you measure that you survived? Well, if you die or not, I suppose. But that's kind of a really simple piece of data. You live or you die. So I decided, after looking through the fight between, in detail, it's haste versus versatility for people who want to know the more fine-tuning information on it. But I decided that this disagreement was something I wasn't going to worry about so much. I was going to lean into, say, what Ask Mr. Robot, AMR for short, is suggesting, and see if that actually just gives me better mitigation across the board. So I've experimented with that for a couple of weeks now, and it's been fairly successful, especially on some of the harder fights. I've actually had a couple of extra heals, is the long and short of it, with a new configuration and a different change in my gear. And that's been very useful, especially on the Kill Jaden fight. However, on some of the easier fights, or fights with a lot of ads, or just doing trash, it's driven me bonkers, because I had, with the configuration, a really great way of doing some AoE tanking. And that's all about my shield, for those of you who've been following that particular issue. But I had to lose that to get these extra heals. So what's the solution when you're dealing with a struggle between these two? I think I've decided I'm simply going to create 2 sets. If you haven't done that, on the character screen, on your gear list, you can create up to 2 sets. I'll have one for AoE, I'll have one for big, hard, punishing fights, and then I will be simply having fun being able to switch between the 2 modes that works for me. I know some people are really big into having the absolute perfect best all the time as tanks, and I appreciate people who do the theory crafting, but I think I like playing the game my way. And that's come at me, a tanking minute.
You know, it's surprising that you brought that up, because I noticed that I got my shoulders tier gear this last raid. And so I went to AMR because I've been looking at the difference between, in the hunters anyway, the AMR between AMR and Pawn. And AMR has actually been doing me a little bit better in my DPS. But I get this shoulder piece and it wants me to switch back to my tier 19 Nighthold gear 4 set and a 2-piece of the new 20 tier. And I refused. I put on the shoulders, I swapped out my back, and I kept my 4-piece and my 2-piece from Nighthold. And I don't know. I mean, we didn't get Kill Jaden down, so I'm still in the, in my mode of deciding which is better. But I agree with you. I think there's some sort of battle going on between AMR and Pawn.
It's pretty tricky modeling for people who are doing the theory crafting and trying to get their heads around it. So I wish them, all the best as they try to figure this out and simplify it for us as users.
Yes, I agree. All right, and we're on to Tapachino.
Hi, it's Tapachino with your Tap into the Healing Minute. Today's topic is about positioning your tune to get the most out of your healing so you can keep your raid alive. It's just as important for the healers to be positioned well in a fight as it is for the tanks and DPS. In some fights, everyone stacks together, like in the Hard-to-Tan fight, making it easy to reach everyone to heal as the group moves around the room together. In other fights, like the Fallen Avatar, the raid needs to be spaced out so you can all drop Unbound Chaos, other words, swirlies, without running over them and taking damage. You also need to run to the back of the room when the Avatar casts Rupture Realities to lessen the damage from that spell as well. Another important aspect of positioning is being aware of where your other healers are positioned. The Fallen Avatar fight is in a pretty big room, so we need to spread the healers out so we can run around when needed and still reach all of our raid members. If you know your fights and have good communication with your raid, positioning will become a natural part of raiding, leaving time to think about that loot when you down that boss. Well, for most people anyways. Some of us don't get the loot.
Wait, are you bitter?
Just a tad.
Well,
the flavors, and you choose salty.
You can actually cut that part out if you'd like. And that is today's Tap into the Healing Minute.
I don't think I will.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's funny. I don't know if you guys heard. Is this the week before the raid? I decided to do LFR, which I haven't been doing. So I did a couple of them and got like 4 pieces dropped of LFR tier gear, which was better than what I had on. So I got a little bit, anyways.
That's the way your luck runs. Okay, so when we get into heroics, you'll start getting normal gear.
There we go. Yep.
It's WFN News, Warcraft Fafford News. The Nether Disruptor building is up next on the Broken Shores. It's got Epic Hunter and Reinforced Rains. That should probably be up on Sunday, so Monday, Tuesday. Monday when this comes out, it'll probably be in its last couple days or last little bit there. So, the weekly quest is a pet battle event. You get 3 times the experience for your pet battles. Yay, pet battles. And then there's some sort of PvP brawl event too. I don't know. Whatever, PvP.
Ooh.
We are such a collection of PvPers, aren't we?
No offense over any of our PvP listeners.
Yeah, I don't like PvP. So anyway, the WoW tokens, holy moly, 145,000. So just a couple weeks ago, they were at 120. Man, it's creeping up. I figured by, the end of the month it would start dropping, but no. So what's up with that? So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's fluctuating, but hey, it's working.
I was starting to wonder if we should just buy them and wait and, get gold income off of that.
Yeah, you could. So I would listen to the Goblin Goldcast because they talk about this stuff all the time. Well, half their podcast. The other half's about drinking. At least the last one was.
Yeah.
So I want to thank all of our raid members for making a fantastic 1-year anniversary episode. That took a lot to, because what you guys don't realize is I decided to do this introduction thing like Saturday, and we record on Sunday. So, I mean, it was literally like Saturday after the raid. I told my wife, I was like, oh, we should get everybody to do introductions. So thank you, Mommy Fortina. You're the best. That's why I've been married to you for 21 years. You made it happen. You got everybody you could to give the introductions. Now, we did introductions all the way up till Monday because there's a couple of people that just weren't coming back on during the week, or during the weekend. But we got, I would say, 99%. There's a couple of people we missed, but, there's always year number 2.
Yeah,
So,
and my fault for forgetting to tell Theo to log on and say something.
It's all right. It's all right. Like I said, there's year number 2. So I want to thank Charm for her beautiful music. Hopefully I'll get my my copyright off of that. I texted her and I texted her and I said, did you get nailed on that one? She's like, no, why? What happened? And I told her, she's like, oh, shucks. So anyway, I want to thank all of our listeners. This is why we do this, is because of you guys. So if you got any comments, suggestions, anything, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Lionspridetavern. That's the best way to get a hold of us. Or you can just use our email address, which is lionspridetavern@yahoo.com. And thanks, guys, for being here this week.
Thank you,
See
everybody.
you next week.
A pleasure as always.
See you next week.
And thanks, Woolen, for the great comment.
Yeah, we like those.
That was awesome. Thank you so much.
It hit me right square in the chest.
Why we do this?
Night all.
Good night.
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 If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lions Pride Tavern Podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.
Chapstick. I kissed an orc just Lights gone, days out, reading's gonna start in 10, but you're not in. And they say you're in the guild's B team, left to do dailies. Been this way since 80, 'cause lately your deep seems slowly sinking, failing. Thought about re-rolling, and you scream. The worst getting well comes free to us, 'cause you're just under the upper hand. Got some skills they don't understand, and you don't wanna progress tonight. And in a pipe, you talk all the DPS. A solo boss is 1% or less. It's too cold outside. Do not raid tonight. Do not raid tonight. Whispers to them, asking how's it going. Log in to vent. You hear nothing, everyone is silent. They know you want in. And they say you're in the guild's B team, left to do dailies. Been this way since 80, 'cause lately your deep seems slowly sinking, failing. Thought about re-rolling, and you scream. The worst getting well comes free to us, 'cause your deeps is under the overtake. Raiders think that it's just a prank, but they don't know how hard it is for you. When you're trying all the best you can, and no one will say anything. They're too nice to hurt your feelings. If they do why, you will then tie. Do you wanna give me a try? This time we'll do the boss just fine. Give me a try. And they say you're in the guild's B team, left to do dailies. Been this way since 80, 'cause lately your deep seems slowly sinking, failing. But about re-rolling, and you scream. The worst getting well comes free to us. And the lights in storm are fading out, and in your deeps they will always doubt. There's no point in hanging around. You see, a